Hi again, this is Joe Scherer with Century 21 Premier Group. This is another video in my series on frequently asked questions, and this video will be on the difference between a short sale and foreclosure, and then there's a number of different types of foreclosures I'd like to talk about. Short sale, 5 or 6 years ago, nobody even had heard of it. 6 or 7, I guess, now. But they become more commonplace, and a lot of people at least understand, kind of what it is. But a short sale is when the owner of the home still does own the home. It's probably distressed financially, though. They can't afford it anymore, and they want to sell, or they have to sell for some other reason. What makes it short is that the current market price that they can get for the home is less than what they can get on the open market. Is less than what they owe the bank. So they're short. And this isn't a problem if they have the money to come up with at closing. It's not really a short sale then. But if they don't, and oftentimes they don't, the lender then becomes the second seller. The owner has to sell the property. Then we send it into the bank, and they decide if they're willing to take that loss. So they're a little easier than they used to be. It used to be a real mess, but the bank is ultimately, they can decide no. So you can go and have an agreement with the seller, say I'll pay you X amount. They have to turn that purchase agreement over to the bank. And what happens is it goes through their bureaucratic process, takes another 60 days, 90 days, sometimes real quick, but usually between 45 and 90 days. And it goes from desktop to desktop. Who knows what they do there? You can't rush them either. And they decide whether or not they're going to take a loss on that property, and they send out their own appraiser, blah, blah, blah. So the risk is that you wait all that time and then they say no. And sometimes they come back and say, yeah, we want another $5,000 or $10,000 or something. Or sometimes it's a silly amount, like $1,000. But the real risk is that they say no, and you've waited all that time. You've lost time on the market. So, and it does happen. So that if you're not in a position where that's even a risk to you, you have somewhere to be, you think it's a good deal, and you think you can wait, and frankly, not worry if they say no or not. You can just cancel the deal then, no problem. So the second type, what I was talking about at the beginning is a foreclosure. Everyone knows what a foreclosure is. That's when the bank takes possession of a property that the owner has stopped making payments on or is behind in some way. The different types of foreclosures, it could be a HUD home. HUD home, we've all heard that term. A lot of people don't know what it is. HUD home is being managed by the federal government, the Housing and Urban Development. And it is a home that was financed with a FHA loan. That's all a HUD home is, and they take it over. They send it through their whole process of selling then. And it's a different type of process. Usually, it's easy to put in an offer. Very easy. You just do it online through a broker that's licensed to sell FHA and registered to sell HUD homes, per se. But then it's kind of a rat race. They send out a package, and it needs to be signed within 48 hours. Needs to get back to them. You need to go to FedEx, and that's not to scare anyone away. It's actually kind of an easy process, but it's completely different. You never send in a typical or standard Minnesota purchase agreement or forms or anything like that. It's all on their own paperwork. Then also there's a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac properties, and those ones are typically sold the same way as normal properties are sold or traditional sales. But after you come with an agreement, they send you back like a 13-page addendum. It's their own addendum, and you need to read through that carefully. Although it's pretty fair. A lot of time they just want things in their own words, so they put everything in their own words, and it overrides the purchase agreement. So it'll have it'll have the terms in relation to the earnest money, their own. It'll have terms in relation to the inspection period, and they don't want to. They're a big federal government agency, and they don't want to put the screws to Joe average person or whatever. So they're pretty fair about that stuff, but just something you need to be aware of. And then there's a standard foreclosure from a regular bank, and a lot of times they have maybe a couple page addendum where they're kind of fussy about certain wording, and that also overrides a Minnesota standard purchase agreement. So anyway, I've done a ton of foreclosures in the past. They don't come up as often now, but they still come up, and short sales. So by all means, you'll see my contact information below. Call me if you have any questions about that or any other traditional sale. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.